I'm J.R. Stewart, and I am not a licensed attorney, and this is not legal advice. I provide legal education for educational purposes only. If legal advice is needed, consult a licensed attorney for your state. I am going to outline a legal strategy to help homeowners protect their constitutional rights when law enforcement arrives for a welfare check. I must warn you that police often use vague requests to trick residents into opening their doors, which can lead to unwarranted searches or self incrimination. I must emphasize that the Supreme Court has established a strict boundary at the home's entrance, requiring a warrant, consent, or a legitimate emergency for entry. To prevent a forced entry under the emergency aid exception, I advise you to clearly state that everyone inside is safe and that the door or window is closed. Ultimately, I stress that maintaining physical boundaries and refusing to step outside are the most effective ways to preserve Fourth Amendment protections. To handle a welfare check without opening your door, you must thread the needle between two legal risks: opening the door and triggering the plain view doctrine, or remaining silent and triggering the emergency aid exception. If you open the door, officers can legally act on anything they see or smell from the threshold. However, if you remain completely silent, the Supreme Court case Brigham City versus Stewart permits officers to enter without a warrant if they have an objectively reasonable basis to believe that someone inside is seriously injured or in immediate danger. I recommend the following specific steps and words to take the emergency off the table while maintaining your rights. Communicate through a barrier. Speak through the closed door, or, even better, stand where they can see your face through a window. This provides visual proof that you are healthy and safe, removing their legal justification for an emergency entry. Use a specific script. State clearly and calmly: Officer, I'm okay. Everyone here is safe, and there's no emergency. I'm not going to open the door, and I do not consent to anyone coming inside. If you have a warrant, you can slide it under the door. Otherwise, I'd appreciate it if you'd be on your way. Do not step outside. Officers may try to persuade you to just step outside to talk. Do not do this, as the Fourth Amendment draws a firm line at the entrance of the house. Peyton v. New York. Once you step outside, you voluntarily leave your protected ground and can be detained, patted down, and separated from your home. Addressed community caretaking. Be aware that in the 2021 case, Caniglia v. Strom, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously that a welfare check alone is not a warrant and does not give police a general community caretaking power to enter your home. Handle pushback with repetition. If an officer asks what you have to hide or threatens to handle things the hard way, do not get defensive or over explain. Simply repeat that everyone is safe, that you are not opening the door, and that you do not consent to entry. Saying anything more could give officers an excuse to force their way into your home. By providing clear proof of safety while keeping the door shut, you fulfill the purpose of the welfare check while keeping your constitutional protections intact. Note that these rules can vary if you are on probation, parole, or involved in an open child welfare matter. If an officer asks you to just step outside or come on out here and talk where we can see you, I emphatically say do not do it. Stay inside your home where you are protected. Once you step outside, you lose your protection. Do not do it. This request is described as a dangerous trap because it is designed to get you to voluntarily walk off your own protected ground. Instead of stepping out, you should stay inside and use the following script. State your refusal clearly. I understand, officer. Everyone's safe. I'm not opening the door, and I don't consent to anyone coming in. Offer a compromise that maintains your safety. I hear you, officer. I'm happy to step to the window so you can see me with your own eyes. But I'm not opening the door, and no one is coming inside. Be repetitive and calm. Do not get defensive or start over explaining. Simply repeat your core line in a calm voice. Why you must stay inside. The firm line. The Supreme Court case Peyton v. New York established that the Fourth Amendment draws a firm line at the entrance of your house. Inside, you have the strongest legal protections. Outside, those protections vanish. Loss of rights is one of the reasons you don't step outside. The moment you step outside and close the door, you can be detained, patted down for safety, and separated from your home. You essentially hand the officer the ability to turn a brief porch chat into a full detention. Plain view is another reason not to open your door. If you stand on the step with the door open behind you, the officer now has a clear look into your home that they did not have before, which could be used to justify further action. The friendly tactic is used out of desperation when all else fails. Officers are trained to use a softer, friendlier voice when asking you to step outside because they know it is the most effective way to get you to waive your rights. By keeping both feet planted firmly inside your home and communicating through a window or closed door, you fulfill the officer's stated goal of a welfare check by proving you are safe without giving up your constitutional protections. If the police claim they hear someone yelling or that someone might be hurt inside, they are attempting to rebuild the legal justification for an emergency entry that you previously took away. Under the emergency aid exception, officers can enter without a warrant if they have an objectively reasonable basis to believe someone is in immediate danger. You should handle this by offering the cure, not the key. You can address their specific claim without unlocking your door by following these steps. Your job is to acknowledge and clarify. Use my script to address their concern directly. I hear you, officer, and I want to be completely clear. Everyone here is safe and no one needs help. I'm happy to step to the window so you can see me with your own eyes, but I'm not opening the door and no one is coming inside. You need to provide visual proof by standing at a window where they can see you are a calm, healthy person. You take the emergency right off the table. Once they have seen you alive and well, they can no longer honestly claim in court that they feared you were unconscious on the floor or in need of rescue. Do not let the statement slide. If you remain silent when they claim to hear yelling, your silence can be used as evidence that they had no idea if you were safe, potentially giving them the legal key to enter. Maintain the firm line. Remember that a report of yelling or a general welfare check is not a warrant. Even with such a report, the Supreme Court has ruled that there is no general community caretaking power that allows police to bypass the firm line at your entrance without a true, visible emergency. The court ruled that officers must see the emergency before entering a home without a warrant. By appearing at the window, you are not stonewalling a rescue, you are being the rescue by showing them exactly what they came to find out, leaving them with nothing left to check. If the police claim to have a warrant, you should not take their word for it and immediately open the door. Instead, you should require them to produce it without granting them entry. I recommend following these steps. Ask them to provide it through a barrier. Use the specific script. If you have a warrant, you can slide it under the door. Otherwise, I'd appreciate it if you'd be on your way. Force the issue of authority. This tactic is clever because it forces the officer to reveal whether they actually have lawful authority or if they are simply making a request dressed up to look like one. Look for signs of a bluff. If an officer has a warrant, they generally will not spend time trying to sweet talk you into opening the door. They would likely be holding the document against the glass for you to see. The very fact that they are asking you to open up is often a strong sign that they do not actually have one. State your intent to comply with real authority. You can calmly tell the officer, "That is absolutely your right, officer. If a judge signs a warrant, I'll follow the law. Until then, I'm staying inside." Comply only if it is valid. If they do produce a legitimate warrant signed by a judge, the rule is to comply with their lawful authority while still asserting your rights out loud for the record. By asking them to slide the warrant under the door, you are not being difficult. You are using a calm, reasonable way to demand they show their authority before you waive your constitutional protections. A call, a report, or an officer's concern is not a warrant, and the Supreme Court has ruled unanimously that police cannot treat a welfare check as a free pass through your front door. If an officer says, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," they are using a tactic specifically meant to rattle you. You should not take the bait, argue, or match the officer's energy. Instead, you should handle this pushback by calmly repeating your core line in a steady voice. Use the following script: "I understand, officer. Everyone's safe. I'm not opening the door, and I don't consent to anyone coming in. Here is why this approach is recommended. Repetition is your friend. Repeating the same firm, calm words is effective for both the officer and their body camera. It clearly establishes on the record that you are being polite but are choosing to exercise your rights. Don't fill the silence. After stating your line, stop talking. Do not rush to explain yourself or get defensive, as their report cannot quote a sentence you never said. It calls the bluff. Often, the hard way implies they will get a warrant. If they truly had the lawful authority to enter, like a warrant or a visible emergency, they likely would not be trying to convince you to open the door. You can respectfully acknowledge their right to seek a warrant while remaining inside. By staying calm and refusing to be intimidated into opening the door, you keep the firm line of protection at your entrance intact. You can tell the police to leave your property. I will provide a specific script and legal reasoning for how to do this effectively during a welfare check. I recommend you say through a closed door or window the following: "If you have a warrant, you can slide it under the door. Otherwise, I'd appreciate it if you'd be on your way." Here is the legal breakdown of why you have the right to ask them to leave. The limited invitation. Under the knock and talk rule, officers have no more right to be on your porch than any private citizen, such as a Girl Scout selling cookies or a kid out trick or treating. They are legally allowed to walk up, knock, and wait briefly for an answer. No right to set up camp. The Supreme Court case, Florida v. Jardines, established that officers do not have an invitation to set up camp on your porch, wander around your property, or peer in your side windows. Protection of the curtilage. The area immediately surrounding your home, known as the curtilage, is protected by the Fourth Amendment almost as strictly as the inside of the house itself. Welfare checks are not warrants. As ruled unanimously in Coniglia v. Strom, a welfare check does not grant a general community caretaking power that allows police to bypass your Fourth Amendment rights. Once you have provided calm, clear proof of safety, the rescue answering the door, they have no objectively reasonable belief that an emergency exists to justify staying. By telling them you'd appreciate it if they would be on their way, you are withholding your consent for them to remain on your property. If they do not have a warrant or a visible active emergency, they have no lawful authority to stay once you have ended the encounter. If you find this legal information educational, please consider helping me by liking and subscribing. Thank you.